Syracuse, how's everyone doing? Doesn't sound too enthusiastic. Come on, how we doing? I'm glad to be back at the RetroGameCon in scenic Syracuse, New York. Not as cold as last time in 2019. I believe it was early November, what it was, and there was snow on the ground. And I did not have a winter jacket at all. I didn't expect how cold it was. It was like high 20s, I think. And I remember whatever shoes I was wearing at the time, I don't think the soles are great. I remember my feet getting wet walking around the street. So this is beautiful. I guess it's the one positive thing about climate change. You got a more enjoyable early winter, late fall, right? Who cares about the grandkids? We'll be gone. All right. Well, welcome. I'm here to talk about what's been going on in my life. Past 4 years I've been working on a certain N64 guidebook that released just recently. The pre-order and Kickstarter backers are getting theirs probably early next week. They start getting them. They started mailing them out this past week. And I was going to do the Play the Punk challenge, but I think we had technical challenges, and just in case we didn't have technical challenges, I left my multi-cart in the hotel room, so we can't see that. So, did that just disappear?
Yeah. What technical challenges last time?
Okay, it's coming back. What? Was it idle for more than like 20 seconds? So we can, I'll show off some pages from the book. I have the whole PDF on here, and I'll do a Q&A. Did my tech person leave? Okay. This ruins the mood a bit. Well, it's trying to do something. It's trying. So other than that, we'll do a Q&A. If you have any questions about what's been going on, the podcast, the CU podcast, no signal. It's signal right here. Okay, this is frustrating. The CU podcast, we're still doing the super shows once a month. I brought back the Not So Common podcast every 2 weeks with Alex Fasciani. Anyone been listening to that, enjoying it? Yeah. You like it, Alex? You like the SoCal feel of Alex meets the East Coast? We thought about East versus West Coast, sort of a title for the podcast, but now we'll keep the Not So Common podcast. And I'm going to undo this real quick. All right, let's try that again. Well, hopefully it works. I think that's what's been going on. I might be working on a Halloween video. Oh, there we go. Okay. So I should probably show you while this is going. Here's the new book in PDF format, which is available on a little USB drive if you're into the digital. But thankfully, people like their physical media books, right? So here's the book. This was conceived May 2020 when I figured, hey, we're going to be locked in for a while. I might as well start working on a book again, even though I just finished the Super Nintendo book, and that wasn't easy. But this was 3 times as hard. This was very difficult for lots of reasons. The emulation wasn't as good, especially at the start. The games, basically, I took for granted the fact that I thought there's half the games should take half the time. But I didn't factor the fact that the jump to 3D gaming meant that games took a little bit more effort to learn how to play and then to complete them. So, like Legend of Zelda on the NES, you can complete that, even if you have a little difficulty, like 3 to 4 hours, let's just say, right? Ocarina of Time, 3 to 4 hours, you're barely scratching the surface of the game. It's like a 20-hour game, something like that. So that I did not realize starting out, and then some people couldn't wrap their head around reviewing. Some of the writers from the first 2 books couldn't, wrap their head around. Now I can review for the N64 and 3D without trying to say, oh, it aged badly, or it doesn't, So that's not what this book's about. These games are reviewed alongside their contemporaries on the system and at the time the PS1, Sega Saturn, and the PC for the most part. And then at the end of the Super Nintendo life, but it was basically, by that point, not much was happening. So this is a standard page here. It's cool to see it scroll, right? Scroll. Let's see, is this the first review of the book, 1080 Snowboarding? So this is a standard review page here. You got up top, you have all your information. I wish I had a pointer. I don't have a pointer. Point with my finger, you don't see my finger pointing there. But you got the genre, release date, the region, the developer, publisher, number of players, the features like game pack save, memory pack save, rumble pack, etc. The availability and the star rating, like the other books, from half star to 5 star. There's no bombs on the NES. A couple of games come close, but there's no bombs. Unlike the NES, had a couple of bombs. So you get more screenshots because in this book there's only one game per page because there's less games. There's only about 400 games, including the Japanese and European exclusives. So you get a little more variety in the screenshots. You always get the title screen on the right, and you get 6 to 8 screenshots. And, which is cool, you get the variant cartridges on the page here. You get the European, the Japanese, and the player's choice, like the million seller. And what's interesting about, not interesting, one of the challenges of the book was that unlike the NES and for the most part the Super Nintendo, there wasn't one good source that had like label scans from one user that were all the same, sort of color graded, the same contrast, where you can just use it all. It's a mess for N64 label art online. The online sources are terrible. Archive.org has some stuff, but not a lot, and it's from different users. And then, if anyone ever heard of the coverproject.net, where you can download labels and box art for all those consoles. Most of that is not accurate to how it actually looks. A lot of that stuff you see uploaded, especially from the N64, has been color graded or tinkered with to make it look better on a computer, and so the colors are more saturated than they are in print. And so we discovered that this is not a good resource. We can't do this. So then we had to go back to, okay, what images are out there? Are there high quality ones on eBay or on some seller shops? Can we scan some? Can we download some? So I went through 4 different artists to try to come up with a uniform library that all looked good for just the labels. And we're talking how many labels with all the variants. And most of the variants in the book, not all of them, because we don't have all the specific European regional variants in the book, but sometimes we have the different European, from UK to France or Scandinavia. There's 800, 900 different card labels for 400 games. So it does a lot of effort, and I think Blake Dinsdale did a great job coming on board and doing that. Here's an example of a Japanese exclusive game. So there's no card variants. So there's about, there's about 90 Japanese exclusive games, not including the DD games, which I'll get into. Any questions so far about anything about this? Are you just enjoying me scrolling? Any games you want to shout out as I go that you want me to stop at to see what the review is? What the star rating is? Well, Bug's Life is 3 stars, just in case you wanted to know.
Out of 5 or 10?
Out of 5.
Okay, just checking.
It's above average. What's a fun one that I reviewed? I reviewed, hey, I just bought this here, Carmageddon 64. 1.5 stars. There's not a lot of games on the N64 that you approach 1-star quality. There's not any, well, Superman's supposed to do a broken game, but it's not really broken, you can still play it. So that's probably one of the lowest review games, but Carmageddon 64 is up there. And I loved this game when it was on the PC. I owned it, the original, and then the sequel, which is just based on the sequel. And I finished this game, and it took like 7 hours to do it, because a lot of the missions are next to impossible. You have to like get these specific loop-de-loop jumps entirely right, which is all trial and error. And yes, this is part of the heartache of doing these books and doing a full review is that you have to play through it, either complete it or get enough for that type of game where you can have a full understanding of it. But for this game, like, I want to play the full thing. I want to see how much pain this is, which goes into my review here. So yeah, I just picked this up. Let's see, what's the Japanese exclusive one I played that was fun? Under the D's. Sculptor's Cut, there you go. Rare game. We decided not to have, there's no very rare N64 games, there's rare games like that. There's not ones that like you cannot find easily. There's not a game like for example, what's a good example of an NES game that's very rare? Myriad 6 and 1. You will not find that out here for sale. You will not see that for sale in person for years. That's a very rare game. Sculptor's Cut's not very rare, it's just rare. You can find it here, other conventions, so that's where we decided there's not really a very rare N64 game. It's not one where it'll take you time to track down that isn't on eBay, for example. Like that's to us very rare. So that's where our differentiation was there. Because I thought a lot about that. Like now, there's not a very rare N64 game there that qualifies to. Where am I going? I'm going to go to Disney DVR Museum. Oh, here's a cool one. Here's a Japanese one. So, Legend of Go 64. This was a long-running series. Still is. I think there's like 12 games in the series. This is who wrote the review? This Stephen Greenwell. And here's an example of the controller that was optional. This was also on the PS1 as well. It was also in the arcade in Japan. A lot of Japanese exclusives that these there. Where's Disney DVR? Diddy Kong, 4 stars. This is another good example. This has even the Australian cartridge. There's room enough for 4 cartridges, so we fit as much as we can here. So for the most part, as most will get 5 cartridge variants, but most games will only have 2 on average. 2. You know, the European or 3, I guess, for Japanese one. I'm trying to think of how many games. I have 2 or 3, but here's Animal Forest, which became Animal Crossing. That was only Japan. And what's interesting about the Japanese games, I should mention this, is that they weren't into the gimmicky different card colors like we were. There's no different card colors in Japan. They're all the standard grid cards. I just find that interesting. That they, dumb Americans, we are distracted by fancy yellow, green, red, blue, black cards. Besides the glittery Pokemon Stadium too. Like we get distracted using it. There's Donkey Kong 64. Did I pass DDR? Where's DDR? I want to show you the pad. And the fact that I actually reviewed that one. Disney, oh there it is, Dance Revolution, Disney Dance Museum. Alright, this is a fun one that I reviewed. I actually asked people that spoke the language, like, hey, is this online? Is this actually accurate? Or is this like a weird Google Translate saying, no, it doesn't make any sense now. This is what they meant. So there's some examples of that down here. There's the original Fighter's Destiny. They had to drop the S for legal reasons, I believe. I think it's written down here by Chris. Right here. This is not a typo. The sequel to Fighter's Destiny did drop the S for the legal reasons. So there you go. We're keeping the tradition of this book where we have the full review on the left side, for the most part. On the right, the reflections, which is more of a background of the game, more historical context, weird stuff like the legal ramifications of having an S in Fighter's Destiny, things like that. Oops. Let's see. Oh, I keep doing that by accident. That was me and Frank Cifaldi at Long Island. Another Getter Love. This is a weird dating sim game with mini games. This is a weird one. I don't know if anyone's heard of this one, but here you go. Let's see. Ki Yang, who also was an editor, she did this review. She took one for the team there. There's your Gex fans out there, Gex 3, Gex 64. Glover, 2.5 stars, which is an average rating in the book, 2.5 out of 5. Let's move on here. I like the random stops here. It's a lot of pain. Oh, the fishing rod controller. Let's back up to that one. There we go. Itoi Shigesato no Based Shuri #1 Ketebon, which translates to Shigesato Itoi's #1 bass. Fishing Definitive Edition. So there you go. So the fishing rod controller was not required for these games, for any of the fishing games, but it was advertised specifically for 3 of the Japanese exclusive fishing games. And this is one of the 3, which is why we included it here on there. Alright, let's move on. We're going to get through this. We're going to do Q&A. And we're not going to run a full hour. We're going to be respectful of the folks after us. Mario Golf. Any Mario Golf fans out there?
Woo!
Alright. Do you agree with 4.5 star rating? That's a high rating?
Yes.
All right. We got a lot of Marios. We got Mario Kart 64, 5 stars. What a surprise. This is shout out. Now that no one heard of Mario Kart 64. The variants here. European cartridge, Japanese, and then 2 different players' choices. Because this was so early that remember they did K to A first before they went to E, before they had before the grading system changed entirely. So some of those early games like Super Mario 64, the first version is K to A. That's like the first version, and then the E is the later one. But they sold so many, like those 2 games in particular, there's 2 different players' choices. Oh, uncommon maybe player's choice? I don't know. This is an interesting one. This is a good example of the lengths we went to make sure our book was accurate. Mario no Photo, or Mario's Photo. This came out only in Japan. It's a photo editing creativity suite that used, there were smart media cards from like the late 90s, like the first generation of digital cameras. I think they stopped using probably like late 2000s, I believe. Like I had one. I had my first Olympus digital camera used that. So this used this. This accepted 2 smart media cards that came with them, I believe. Let's see, and they sold branded ones, like Yoshi's Story, Legend of Zelda, and one for Sylvanian families. Remember the Sylvanian families? They sold them here to the little like flocked animal little toys. So anyway, so no picture or playthrough existed online of this software actually being utilized to do photo editing. Not like, load up an emulator and go through everything, but like you need to have photos in the smart media card attached. You can't do that through an emulator. That hasn't been thought of yet, hasn't been done. So what did we do? So Pat knows who has a complete N64 set. I know Josh from Limited Run, who runs Limited Run Games. I said, Josh, can you let me borrow this? Can you mail it to Daniel, one of the editors, Daniel Greenberg, and one of the contributors. Can you mail it to him? So I was like, okay, great, I'll mail it to him because he has a full, big setup of, video capture for HD and everything else. So it's like, okay, that's great. But now we need a smart media card. That's okay. So Dan had a smart media card and loaded up a JPEG. It didn't work because it required a specific, like, older format JPEG, like the weird encoding. So I'm like, okay, what do we do? I went back, I still had my camera. It had one picture on it, which appears, where is it here? You see the top left of the top left photo, the top left is a little picture on the wall. I shot that like 15 years ago, that picture randomly went with San Diego, a picture with for some reason I just shot it with my digital camera I hadn't touched forever. Thankfully that was still on the card, so I took a copy of that, I mailed it to Daniel, who then had to see, okay, how is this JPEG actually encoded, this 25-year-old version of this? He then applied that to new images, loaded it in the card, and then played it alongside the person actually writing the review, Chris Pranger. So it took all this effort just so we can create pictures. For example, there's Zelda Kitty in the third picture looking over Daniel's newborn at the time. So this, for example, like I was saying, you cannot find pictures of this on the internet, this actually being used. And now we did it. We actually went back like we were in the late 90s, or excuse me, 98, December, and actually using it. So that's the effort I want to go through for this book. Because this book's going to exist hundreds of years from now, and you need information about how this was actually used. And so that's what we did. So that was one of the more gruesome reviews that had to be done, was this one, because of that. Let's see, more Mario Parties. Don't ever heard of those. Mario Tennis. Let's see, here's a Japanese exclusive golf game. All right, we can fast forward a bit here. We'll get to the back of the book. Any fans of Milo's Astrolanes, one of the few bowling games in the system? I saw a copy out here for sale. It's very uncommon, because I say it's very uncommon. I don't think it goes for that much. Because who would want it, right? Mischief Makers, that's one of the more well-known third-party games. Well, third-party, you kind of publish it, didn't develop it. It's one of those weirdest, baseball. Mission Impossible, everyone had that game. That was an early-ish game. Monopoly. Oh shit. Come on, you're killing me. I was going to show another interesting one. Alright, so I'll unplug and replug. Oh, this is like warm and burning up. My hands, the cable. That's weird. Let's see if it spins back. That's weird, it wasn't idle at all. I didn't touch anything. Come back to me. Alright, let me try it again. What I was going to show you was Marita Shogi 64. I was going to show you a game that had on top of it a telephone line out to do multiplayer. It's the only game that had that. So that was a custom card. Oh, there it is. Oh, cool. So you see the top, how it was a little open? There was actually a little tab to close it. We decided to show it open. And and the little light on it, which I think showed when you plugged it in. So that was interesting. Obviously, you know, there's no servers for that I know of, but I think I was informed by someone that like this technology or this card is still somewhat used in like the hacker community or mod community for N64 games, like how they did the server connections and stuff. So that's interesting. Where's one of the worst games? This is one of the worst games. Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero. 1 star. Not good. I played it last week. I might talk about it in my Halloween video. And it's not fun. You have to push a button to turn around constantly, going back and forth, because it's an action-adventure game. Where you run around as Sub-Zero, there's booby traps all over the place. It is not fun at all. Any fans of the game? Who played this back in the day when it came out? Like several of you? Any of you actually liked this game? Or no. No, okay. Alright. I saw it around for sale out there. I might pick it up. Let's fast forward. Let's get to the back of the book. Where else would I go? There's just a lot in this book. Here's a European exclusive that was also Japan, Rakuga Kings. It's interesting because it's like children's drawings that are fighting. That's like the basis of the game. It's very interesting. Who reviewed that one? Dan Anderson, who also was a contributor to the Super Nintendo book. And he also did the most important review of the book, which is Super Mario 64. I thought that'd be easy. I will get to that. Okay. Here's an interesting one. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Alright, I think the projector just is like
Said the cameras.
I'm not.
There's always an issue.
Every time you come.
I don't remember 5 years ago, was there a projector issue then too?
Yes, there's projector issue needed the front.
Was it the same projector?
I remember the one year where the projector wasn't working at all, and I was just out of my mind in 2017 or so.
Yeah, we can't get that, nobody can get a copy of that.
Oh, and I did my 10-minute friendlies rant.
Yeah.
You know, I was like out of my mind. It was 2016, I think, because I was like, in 2016, I had done 10 conventions in like 3 months, and I was out of my mind by that point. This was the last one in November, and it was like a fever dream. I don't remember anything. All right, Rocket, Robot, and Wheels. This is an interesting one. What's interesting about this is that Sucker Punch Productions' first game, and now they did Ghost of Tsushima. So this is where they got their start. Is that interesting? There's also like the prototypical which game is it? The Body Harvest? Body Harvest basically became GTA 3. Basically, that was almost like the prototype of that game by the same folks back then. So there's some interesting games that I discovered that you could too. That you learn the history of some of the developers of these games. And it's like, oh, this system might have contributed to the future. You're killing me. Well, any Q&A while we figure this out? Anything you're interested to know about? Anything else? Yes?
I got a question. What are the various differences? Why the reason why we have a lot of people
The question is, why didn't we bring the DD over here? There's an article in the book about that. About the whole... They kept delaying it, like years and years, and by that point, like there was no point to bringing it out here. It did horribly in Japan. So it's like, why would you bother bringing it out here? So that's one of the reasons why. We'll get to that though, yeah. Any other questions while I scroll to the back of the book and not touch any... I'm trying to touch anything here. Any Shadow Man fans out there? No. I saw a question in the back.
Yeah, what's the review score for Sin and Punishment?
Oh, it's coming up. I'll get there. Yes? You the same question?
No, that was the question I asked. Sorry. I did not mean to raise my hand.
Oh, okay, cool. Where's Sin and Punishment? Where is Sin and Punishment? H-I-J. And I reviewed that one. 4.5 stars?
Nice. Yeah.
You respect that score?
Hell yeah.
Okay.
I apologize.
It's a rail shooter. There, technically, it's really fun. And I did not have real experience before. Another Treasure developer, so they had a good relationship with Nintendo. And that one, I'm not sure why that one didn't come out here, maybe because it was late in the lifespan of the system, a little bit. But I think that would have sold well here. I mean, they eventually did the Wii version.
Yeah, virtual console.
Yeah, so, yeah. kids, that's a favorite amongst a lot of people. South Park, the first game is not good. Rally's not that great either. Love Shack, 2.5 stars. Did Karen review all 3? Karen took one for the team and reviewed all 3 of these. Any fans of Chef's Love Shack out there? Little board games sort of game show thing. Space Invaders, I did not do that one. I did review, what was the Asteroids N64 game with the Hyperzone. I should know the name of it. I'm tired. Actually, I got to give it a positive review. It was like the most you could do with Asteroids in terms of like more variety of villains, a lot of power-ups, and 3D. I gave it a positive review. Oh my God, this is like 20-second sensitivity of going to a screensaver. This is ridiculous. Another question? Yes, on the end.
After all the effort that you went through for the Mario photo editing one, did they end up doing what did you review it? What was it reviewed? Like,
what was it reviewed?
Score-wise.
Oh, I don't want to scroll back up.
They don't.
I think they gave it 3.5 or 4.
Okay, so it was worth the effort.
Positive. Yeah, because back then, like, what else are you gonna do? You have a computer. On this side, I saw it. Yes.
What was your favorite game that you reviewed for the book that you hadn't played before?
Oh God, I gotta remember all 20 games. Let's see. I really enjoy. I gave it, I think, 3 stars above average. And I was dreading it. Paperboy 64. I thought it was going to be terrible. It's actually fun. It has a lot of charm to it, a lot of character to it if you never played it, and the controls are pretty good. So that's an interesting one. If you're like, oh, Paperboy, but it's not even Paperboy 64, it's just Paperboy, I believe. And yeah, I think I reviewed the NES one, which was on Master at the original, and then I reviewed the Super Nintendo one. So it's like, I'll review Paperboy for N64, but I thought it was going to be really bad. It was good. So that's one of the good things. But I went. In a lot of these reviews I did, besides like I did NBA Hang Time, I did all 3 cruising games, but most of the games I reviewed, I went in like totally blind. I'm like, okay, clean slate. What is this game like? So that's a good example where I was not influenced by anything from Paperboy. I'm so sorry about this. I don't know what's happening. Did it come back by itself? But it was like this before. Okay, I want to show you the back of the book and the other good goodies in here that you'd be wowed by. Well, it's StarCraft 64 again. 4 stars. There's something to that, but it's interesting. Let's try one more time here.
That droning is like making me crazy about it.
Any other questions about anything? I hope this comes back when I show you the back of the book, and like the hardware section, and the controller and console variants. There's Superman, the new Superman Adventures. That's the title of the game. It's actually not Superman 64. And is that the worst reviewed game? Is that a half star? Is that a little mini star? It is. And you can't see it right now, unfortunately. Unless you want to walk up and like, look at the icon. Question in the back.
Yeah, since we're getting Mike Tyson and Jake Paul in the ring next year.
Is it next year? It's not this year?
Whenever it is. What is more important to me is when can we get you and Tommy Tallarico in the ring?
Can I do one panel this year without a Tommy Tallarico question? At 2 of the games, there was literally 8 questions about the Amico or Tommy Tallarico. I think there's a question behind you, too. Something. Yeah, way in the back.
Are the Mets winning the World Series?
The Mets got vibes. The Mets got vibes this year. I'm not saying they're going to win it, but it's been a great season. That's not a Mets fan. They're disappointed. The Mets, I have a good feel with the Mets, and no one wants to root for the Dodgers, right? Any Dodgers fans in here? No one likes them. The Dodgers are like worse than the Yankees in terms of their fan base, in my opinion. That's how it go viral. What? Yankee fans will give you crap, but they won't threaten to beat you up like Dodger fans will. 2 of them will start a fight with your friend. What's that?
I'll see you later then.
Oh yeah? You don't want a Subway Series this year. This is not the 2000 Mets. That 2000 Mets team shouldn't have been there.
I'm afraid of Grimace right now.
You're afraid of Grimace? The power of Grimace? Give it up for Grimace. Yeah, that's right. He's our new mascot. We own Grimace. Corporate sponsorship. McDonald's sent Grimace to the game last week. Okay. Another question?
Come on over here.
Oh, there you go.
How
back. If the Mets do win the World Series, will you review Mike Piazza's strike zone?
You know what? When I reviewed Mike Piazza's strike zone,
Yeah.
I did it for the book. I almost thought about it. I was like, no, there's someone else that's doing a lot of the baseball games. Oh, we're back. So, external stage manager off. I don't know what that means. You know what? That could be a fun one to do. He was still on the. Was he still on the Mets when he did that? Yeah, he was still on the Mets. He was on the Mets when he did that. Damn you, Roger Clemens. All right, let's go to the back of the book. Here. God, there's so many pages. This book is so extensive. Shout out to Virtual Pro Wrestling 64. And the sequel, which is above it, alphabetically. War Gods. I remember my cousin getting War Gods, and we played it because we had to like it. Early fighting game. Any War Gods fans in there? It's kitschy. There's fatalities and stuff. You like War Gods?
Kabuki Joe.
Kabuki Joe, is he mentioned in the review? Is Kabuki Joe mentioned? Not sure it's mentioned there. A Kabuki fighter, so that high priest, gladiator, a Kabuki fighter, an undead voodoo god, and more. So there you go. Wavering 64. There you go. One of my all-time favorite. Actually, you know what? It might be like one of my. If I had like top 50 games personally, this would be it for sure. And I reviewed this one. Yeah, this was the first review I wrote for the book. I tried to have my first reviews be like good games out of the gate. The first review I wrote for. I wrote F-Zero for the Super Nintendo book. That was my first review. Now it also got 4.5 stars, I believe. And this is a brilliant game. Giles Goddard, who worked on this game, he worked on 1080 snowboarding, and wrote the intro to the book. By the way, I now know the person who literally came up with the technology to develop Mario's face on Super Mario 64. That was Giles. He worked for Nintendo directly at that point in Japan. He had worked obviously on the Super Nintendo stuff, he worked on Star Fox and things like that, and then came over. And now I know personally a guy that is like a genius video game. It's so weird. I'm a dumb YouTuber talking about baseball stars, 16 years ago. And now I know some of these luminaries of the industry. Here's the Shindo Pack version, or Rumble Pack. This one came out for this, and Super Mario 64. There's slight differences. Kind of a weird page because, like, what else am I going to show? Because I already talked about it here. So this. All right, let's get to the back of the book here. Oh, we have time before this goes down in flames again. Win Back, Wipeout 64. I remember playing that on the PlayStation a lot. This is an interesting sim adventure-ish game where you're a robot gal. You have to like train her up to do things and such. Wonder Project. No Mercy. Any No Mercy fans? 5 stars. Best reviewed wrestling game in the whole book. Here's an example of an interesting translation. This is a text adventure mystery game. Sea Sparkle 2 Murder Cruise. That was like the closest translation we thought was probably accurate, because the ones online were like awful. We're like, no, Murder Cruise probably sounds most accurate. Sea Sparkle 2. There was no direct translation for Yakochu. It was like a glittery like sea meaning. We're like, well, we gotta sort of translate that to English. So that's an example of that. And good old Yoshi story. The last one is Zool, which is like let's see, is Zool the animal training one? Yeah, it's like an animal trainer game. Really like sort of like Pokemon sort of like clone-ish game out there. All right, not for resale cartridges, right? You might find one out there to go for a lot of money. I thought I owned one, but I don't. And I did all the writing. I talked about the differences between some of them, like Majora's Mask, the gray version of it. It's not for resale version. It has a demo. It has demo stuff, the menu, for example. So it's actually a different game. But a lot of these with no writing, like on the right, they're the exact same as the retail release. Pokemon Snap, for example. There's the one from the machine there. And there's a regular not for resale one that is the actual game, the entire game. There's only, I think, one European not for resale, which is Turok 2 Seeds of Evil there. Special cartridges, not a lot of them, but you got the Agent cartridge, Mundial Ronaldinho Soccer 64, that's a meme. There's a test card. Here's the hardware. Now we couldn't fit all the hardware in the book, so we have the major first-party hardware, but if you get the book or put up your cell phone right now, you can get the QR code, go to a website that has over 100 different pieces of hardware written about with pictures that we cannot fit in the book. So like we did not do that for the 2 books. Too late, QR code's gone. Well, actually I have the website there too, but And then here's the other more hardware. We have all the first party here, and the HoriPad Mini is like second party because they work with Nintendo, so I put it in here. These are all the color variants that they have. Anyone familiar with the HoriPad? Like the original like alternative good controller for the N64? And now they reproduce them aftermarket. Here's third party stuff. Pick the most interesting ones. There's a ton of, we would like, okay, what's the most common steering wheel? We thought it was the V3, and some of the memory card stuff, the Game Shark. The glove, I have the glove, actually works. Here's more, the biosensor for Tetris 64, the other controllers I talked about, and the IQ player, which was the Chinese N64. I don't know if any of you are aware of that. They actually had this like unit that was all in one, and you went to the stores to load up more games. Now here's what's cool, all the console variants, talking about the history of them. Look how, this is David, the CG artist, did a great job with this. All the fantastic colors. There's a watermelon red. The fantastic ones that just came out in Japan. The Just Go like store one. The baseball Dai Hawks one on the bottom left. All four of the Pokemon Stadium, so the Pokemon variants, Pokemon Stadium, Battle Set, and the light blue and orange Japanese ones, and the one that we had, the bottom right. Here's even the ones, here's the gold one, and then the 3 Fox Data ones, which are not official releases. They reskinned them in the UK. They send in your console or buy them directly. So there you go. And the Mahogany was not released, but we found examples online. Same thing with the controllers. You want controller variants? You got them. All the controller variants. Ones you knew about and ones you did not know about. Right there. Giveaways, everything else, the Fox Data ones on the right. 64 DD hardware and accessories. Right there. And then you got your 64 DD reviews. All 10 games, or 10 titles, because one's not a game. There you go. With also the art, the case artwork on the right. On the bottom right for each one there. There's RAINnet Disc, which gave you the internet, which we couldn't test that out, unfortunately. SimCity 64. Unreleased NES games, we did this for the other 2 books, we didn't write a lot about them. We didn't write all about it on the NES. Super Nintendo, I think I gave a little blurb, but who wrote this? Was it was Tony, that's right. Tony wrote this. From Hard for Games. Let's see, unreleased games, a lot of interesting ones about there. Nice kayak game. Here's a Nintendo 64 technology article for Daniel about the history of it, what actually went into the development. There's your 64 DD article about, why it failed. Just a few pages there. Alex Bassiani wrote a humorous article about every game with Super Mario 64, talking about how important it was to establishing the 3D platform genre, and how their games sort of like try to do their own thing with it. Console 1000 Volts and History of N64 Wrestling Games. This is from Audi Sorley, who actually wrote a book about the history of wrestling games, covering everything from the 70s up until whenever the book came out, 2022. And he also works on the Run now. And so we did a nice historical look at the landscape of wrestling games during the N64 era. So that's a very interesting article there. It's super long. What was that, 6 pages? Multiplayer article by Dale. Dale actually wrote all the wrestling reviews in the book and some of the racing reviews. He did about 50 reviews. He was a champ. Let's see what else. Here's something that you may not have known about. The Alex 64 arcade games. The Alex 64 was like, oh my God, you're gonna buy the book to find out, I guess. That's so weird. So the Alex 64 was a Japanese arcade platform that was JAMA. You're familiar with the JAMA arcade harnessing? That was based on the N64 hardware, and there was interchangeable cartridges you bought to play. So they're basically N64 games. You can't play them on an N64 directly that I know of, but we reviewed them through there's a little emulator, little patch to do it for the rounds. So we reviewed them all, 12 games or 10? 10 or 12 games, including, there we go. For example, they're all cartridges except for Magical Tetris Challenge featuring Mickey, which was basically the one that released on the console. Yeah. And there's one adults-only game that means technically Nintendo had a licensed adults-only game, which was Vivid Dolls. Don't worry, I did not show any nudity here, but I reviewed it. I did a tough job. And it's one of those games where you like kicks, it's a kicks clone, where you do, you draw a little cursor around and more images appear. And you go through, I think, 3 pictures of each woman, and she has less clothes in each picture. There you go. Collector's Corner. What is the weird, odd things that came with the N64 games? Well, a couple pages we talked about some of the weird sets and weird stuff. Like, for example, there's a version of Army Men Sergeant's Heroes that came with a keychain. There was a version of the Motsu no Mori that had a controller pack. Core Q64 Japan had a little car kit. So that's an interesting one. And if you want to learn more, there's a little QR code where we include about 3 dozen more of these. So you can learn about stuff like that because it couldn't fit in the book. This is a bonus thing. Shadow Man, speaking of Shadow Man, did you know there was a version where you can get Shadow Man sunglasses back like sealed to the box? Well, there you go. There's a rare version, big box version of Tarzan that came with 2 characters, 2 figurines in a big box. So this is something that was interesting I wanted to do that we didn't do for the other 2 books. All the Rampage variants, the plushies, there's tons of those. Even a game like World Driver Championship had a t-shirt shrink wrapped to the back of the box. There's a version out there that has that. And that's basically the book. Here's their early supporters that we thank, and that's it. So there you go, that's the book. Like the book? Of course, I might have it for sale at my booth at G17 after the panel, if you want to buy a physical or digital version. So there you go. Any other questions about Tommy Tallarico or me or the book? We got about 5-10 minutes. Got 5 minutes. Yes?
You might make a GameCube book in the future.
Do I think I might make a GameCube book? No. I gotta redo the NES book, because that's been sold out since December, and 25 people have asked me about it this weekend so far. So I'm gonna redo that. I'm gonna beef up the look a little bit. I'm gonna have some of the reviews rewritten. I'm gonna add a couple of new sections, so it's all new if you bought like the first.
I have the first edition.
You're the first one? Well, it might be time to trade it in or sell it on, if you sold it right now, you would get money for it. Because used right now, the books go for over retail. They go for like $80.
I had the first, because I was like,
You were back with the first one?
yeah. And
Thank you,
I
sir.
had the limited print to the special issue.
You had the limited special print as well. We did that for the third print. So you had the first and the third print.
Yep, and then I discontinued when they asked me.
Well, you can get, I think someone was selling the special edition NES for $150 at Portland. I'm not saying they got one today, but I'm just saying. My books go up in value, they're like collector plates. Like the Star Trek collector plates. Classic Game Junkies have some kind of. Well, like I said, the NES ones are hard to find. Some stores might still have them. They sold out in December. Any other questions? Yes, by the end.
So, do you pretty much exclusively play everything on original hardware, or are there any clone systems you like?
Clone systems that I like?
Clone.
I love the analog stuff. I can't wait for the analog 3D. The Duo, the analog Duo is amazing. But that counts as a clone, I guess. Does that count? And obviously the Pocket's amazing. So the analog products, the MPG stuff is super nice. They're a little spendy, but I think it's worth it for the quality. All right, we'll do like 2 or 3 more questions. Yes?
What came of your challenge to Guru Larry?
Oh, my Guru Larry challenge for 5,000. He never even responded to it. I tried to refute, the slanders he was telling me online about me. Of course. A couple more. In the back on the right.
Any film projects coming up?
I'm sorry?
Any film projects coming up?
Any film products?
Projects.
Film projects. Well, I might be doing a Halloween video, if that's what you mean. Other than that, we'll see. I might be writing something. Might have another big project that's taking years in the works that I can't talk about. If I'm here next year, I might talk about it. So I'm always doing stuff because I don't want to enjoy my life. I want to just put out content, entertainment, and I'll stroke out when I'm 49. That's the plan. Go out and blaze of glory. 1 or 2 more questions, and we gotta get out of here. Yes, on the end.
How's Frank?
Frank is great. If we had time, some conventions I used to call him live and say how you doing and say hi to everyone. If he asked me 10 minutes ago, I might have done that. He's happy about the Yankees and the Mets. I mean, he isn't, unlike me, I'll root against the Yankees here and there, but he'll root for the Mets. That's usually how Yankee fans, well, no, some Yankee fans do hate the Mets, which is weird. You don't like having two teams in the same city, huh? You can't handle it. right. Anything else? No? We're good? You like the idea of the book? It's not bad, right? Oh, that was good. All right. Why not say yes for All right, well, I'm going to get going. There's a panel after me. Got to be respectful. But yeah, come out to the booth. G17, say hello. You can